listening to Journeys with Rebecca right here on wolfspiritradio.com and also Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com Studio B. Please remember that both stations, Wolf Spirit and Freedom Slips, are totally listener supported. So donations really do make a difference. It allows for all the wonderful show hosts and their guests to continue to provide the best and latest information. And of course, and as always, it's not mainstream. Please don't forget to visit my website. That's journeyswithrebecca.com. Check out the archives, upcoming guests and topics, as well as classes and workshops. I've got a wonderful guest tonight. He's a terrific guest, and I hope you will enjoy this as much as I know I will. Tonight we have on with us David Oates. He's the discoverer and founder of reverse speech. Now, reverse speech is David's life passion. In fact, he sees it as more than a passion, but rather a mission. He's had quite a long, lengthy career in this as well. It began for him on his 28th birthday in 1983 when he accidentally dropped a tape player in a toilet bowl, and as it resulted, only played backwards. Divine there. He started listening to tapes backwards, and by 1987, he had written his first book on reverse speech, co-authored with his mate, Greg Albrecht. Since that time, David has written 4 more books on reverse speech, designed and authored the 3 reverse speech training courses. He's lectured around the world to crowds of thousands and has conducted thousands of interviews, including CNN's The Larry King Show. Now, David has an active career furthering the field of reverse speech as a full-time occupation. He has devoted his new theories as well as design therapeutic and training techniques. That's going to be interesting. I can't wait for you to talk about that on his research. And, of course, he's lectured around the world, as we said. He's done a numerous radio shows, and I'm just very, 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 very honored to have you on the show. Thank you for joining us tonight. Now, David, just for everyone to know, David will only be with us in the first hour. If there is time, we will take a couple of questions. Please do remember to put them in all caps so that we can get those answered, or David can get those answered for you. And again, I want to welcome you to the show, David. Hi.
Hi, how are you? Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, well, the reverse speech is kind of an interesting thing. It has a whole lot of information, and you also have some things that you have done with the CIA that actually I had that written down here. Let me see if I can find it again real quick so I can share this with people. Oh yeah, your work was validated, the reverse speech, when the CIA declassified it under the Freedom of Information Act. Their initial look at reverse speech it proves that gave David full credit for the discovery, and quotes in his 1991 book, Hidden Messages in Human Communication, which was released in 1991, shortly after you lectured in Washington, D.C., to the CIA, FBI, and other alphabet agencies. So it says, one must wonder, though, if this is what they have released, how much more do they have and what has not been released yet? Now, that's the question of the hour, right? Anyway.
Yes, I've been wondering that question myself. I go and search the CIA website every couple of months to see if they've done some more data dumps, but nothing yet other than their initial release. But at least it validates that they have been looking into it and researching it. I've heard numerous stories that they're using it in the field. I know I've done some work for the FBI. They said they were going to do more research, and I haven't heard anything from either of those 2 agencies for over 20 years. So what they're doing with it is anyone's guess. But,
yeah, that's exactly right. It is anyone's guess. But so we hear the story. We know the story that your tape player dropped in the water, right? In the bowl,
right.
And that's how so is that really what struck you is you actually heard things, I would assume, from the first time, and then that's kind of
it was really quite a happenstance. Yeah, it accidentally fell in the toilet bowl while I was dancing around the bathroom, and I put it back together wrong and only played backwards. And I started to listen to tapes back, so I didn't really hear anything. I mean, I didn't know there was anything there to hear. I just thought, oh, this is an interesting little sound. And then a couple of months later, I was running a halfway house for street kids in Australia. And one of them had got hold of a sermon that a fundamentalist preacher had given on satanic messages in rock and roll. And he claimed that if you played rock and roll records backwards, you could hear these hidden messages. And I'm going, oh yeah. I said, well, I've got a tape player at home that plays backwards, so let's go and have a look at this. So I started running these records backwards, and I'll be blowed if I couldn't hear there were indeed some messages there, and it hadn't been manipulated with. I was really quite intrigued. Actually, let me play you a simple example in music, and then I'll get on to the real theory of reverse speech. So,
okay.
So here's Creedence Clearwater Revival.
It was down in Louisiana, just about a mile from Texarkana, in them old cotton fields back home.
Backwards he sings, I believe in my cool woman.
I believe in my cool woman.
Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh.
Woman.
Isn't that amazing, hey?
Oh my gosh, I love CCR. I'm glad it wasn't anything negative. I thought, oh, please don't have anything negative because I really love them.
Yeah, no, it's actually quite an appropriate reversals because John Fogerty is a very loyal family man, been with the same woman all his life. So, it's an expression of that loyalty. So,
isn't that cool?
Yeah. So, then once I've been looking at music for 2 or 3 months, I accidentally stumbled across it in human speech. And, once you start hearing it in speech, I mean, to hear it in music is a nice little interesting oddity. This is amusing, but to suddenly stumble across it in human speech, it puts a whole different spin on it. And let me play you a really simple example in speech to start off with. This is Angelina Jolie, and she's saying she's very aware of her own emotions.
I grew up kind of very aware of my own emotions.
And we play it backwards, and she simply says, I'm very aware.
I am very aware.
I am very aware. I am very aware.
Yeah, so that's what we call a congruent reversal. It's communicating the same information backwards as it does forwards. Now let's look at an incongruent reversal. This is Hillary Clinton on the campaign trail. We'll run this one forwards.
It also matters.
Oh, hang on, I'm sorry. Now.
And you know what? It also matters when he makes fun of people with disabilities. Calls women pigs.
And here she says, and I'll scam you.
And I'll scam you.
And I'll scam you.
You hear that?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I started finding these backward messages about once every 20 or 30 seconds of speech. And I was absolutely amazed. And it was obviously a lot more to this than what the fundamentalist said was satanic messages, because I was beginning to hear the thoughts of my friends and family. And so after looking at it for 3 years, I wrote my theory in 1987. And it's the theory of reverse speech, and it basically states that language is bilevel, forwards as well as backwards. As the human brain is putting the sounds of speech together, it's doing it in such a way that we're delivering two messages, one forwards from the conscious mind and the other one in reverse from the unconscious. So whatever we are thinking and feeling, both on a conscious as well as unconscious level, has a potential to appear backwards in our speech, who we really are and our real thoughts and our real feelings. So it's quite an amazing technology. One of the things that I noticed about it first off was that the reversals were all what we call congruent. They related to the forwards. So let's play a typical example of this. This is Donald Trump. And he's talking about Hillary Clinton's emails in the email scandal. And I want you to, when I play it forwards, I want you to notice the two words he says in particular, Hillary and email. So here's the forwards.
When he gave up that email thing, he said, "Here, Hillary, And you know what? That was orchestrated by the Democratic Party.
Let me run this backwards, and he says, Hillary, let's see this email.
Hillary, let's see this email. Hillary, let's see this email.
You hear that one okay?
Yep.
And so it's totally related to the forwards. You've got Hillary forwards, Hillary backwards, email forwards, email backwards. It's a congruent reversal. And that was one of the things that convinced me of the reality of reverse speech in the early years, was there was this direct contextual relationship. The forwards and the reverse would be totally related to each other.
You know, it's interesting, the expression, somebody speaking out of both sides of their mouth. That, to me, that feels like, you know, something will come out of somebody's mouth, but you know that really what they're thinking is something different coming out of them. So it's kind of like that whole reverse speech. That's interesting. You know, I found the whole thing, by the way, I just think reverse speech is an extraordinary tool for all kinds of things. So, you know, through your years, I'm sure you have just 100 applications in which this could, when did you stop doing this? I mean, it'd be like, just like every day I'd be doing something with it. I gotta hear what this person really meant.
Oh gee, I'll never stop doing this. I'm 62 and I'm just getting started.
I love it.
No, this is exciting. I love reverse speech. I've got an amazing, very fulfilling, satisfying career and pioneering a whole new field and a very significant field. It's and the applications of it are just amazing. I have a fairly busy therapeutic practice where I work with clients and using their reversals to diagnose problems, and then hypnosis, or a unique form of hypnosis I've developed myself for change of the unconscious. But let me show you some of the applications in therapy. This is a woman who came to me with money problems. So we'll play this forwards.
She and I need to work this issue out, but it started to bring up all my money fears and stuff. And the thing is if I know I start sourcing fear again, I'm going to go way downhill.
Okay, now we run this backwards, and she says, work on my grief.
Work on my grief.
Work on my
And again.
Work on my grief.
She and I need to work this issue out.
So that is her unconscious mind telling us what we need to do. Her money issues are related back to grief. And I remember this case quite well, played the reversal, and all these very sad stories about her childhood came running out, and it was the unresolved grief issues that was causing her financial problems. Now, you know, I mean, we may have never gotten to that using regular therapy, and reverse speech will go straight to the heart and cause of anyone's problems and tell us why it's there, and in many cases how to fix it, which is just an amazing thing. So,
That's an extremely powerful tool.
indeed. Let me see if I can let's find another quick one in therapy. Oh, okay, here's one here. Okay, this is a woman who had relationship issues. Relationships never lasted very long, and she's talking about when her last relationship broke up.
I even marked it on the calendar when it shifted. It was the night that it happened. My friend Cheryl was just telling me about how, you know, what we believe we then create.
And here she says backwards, I've been molested.
I've been molested.
I've been molested.
Very clear, I'm sure you'll agree.
Oh my God. Absolutely.
And that brought up a whole very sad story of abuse as a child, which had affected her ability to have healthy, nurturing relationships. And once again, the reverse speech was able to pinpoint the problem that we needed to work on. And most of my work is done in therapy. 80-90% of all my work is working with my clients in my therapeutic practice, and I see entire lives changed. It diagnoses a problem accurately and gives solutions, which is just amazing.
You know, you can't get any better than that when you find a problem and then the solution is there.
Right.
I have a kind of an off the therapy thing, but I want to get back to it. Have you had some very strange reverse speech from people that's come up that may have been like different language or, seems to come from some other place besides themselves or what have you? Anything like really strange that's went on in some of your things?
Oh yeah, strange. It's strange.
I like strange.
Strange is every day. Oh dear me. Now you want me to pull one out on the top of my head. You get a lot of strange things in reverse speech. Oh look, some of the earlier strange events were with metaphors and archetypes. Okay, here's an interesting metaphor. This is a client who's talking about what happens when we die.
I'm not sure what happens when you pass. You know, I've had out-of-body experiences at Monroe Institute. I've been there a few times.
And here we have a metaphor. He says, now be friend with delicious whirlwind.
You know, if you stir in the delicious whirlwind.
You hear that one there?
Yep, I do. That's interesting verbiage.
Okay, yes, it is interesting verbiage. Okay, reverse speech talks a lot about the whirlwind. It describes it as an energy field that pervades the universe. Star Wars calls it the Force, and reverse speech calls it the whirlwind. And
interesting.
What he's saying is that when we pass, we become friends with this marvelous universal energy or whirlwind.
Ooh. Oh, you're giving me the goose willies. Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, so that's a bit of interesting. Oh, they get really interesting. Spiritual matters are talked about quite a lot. For example, here's one here.
We've just got to try. We've got a seminar that people have paid us to do in November that we're going to complete.
Yes. And here he says, divine, I must serve you.
Divine, I must serve you.
Oh.
Divine, I must serve you. Divine, I must serve you.
And let's get down to
We've
really...
just got to try. We've got
sorry,
a seminar
I don't know why that's repeating. And let me get down to a really emotional one. You're talking about strange ones. This is on me. And this is a recording that I made about 15 years ago. Oh, no, 20 years ago. 15 years ago. My son had just died. I was in a deep period of depression. And I'm talking to my tape recorder, talking to some people about why am I feeling so depressed. And I say forwards, well, I'm very sensitive to energy. Maybe that's why. So here's the forwards. Could be. Yeah, could be. Well, see, I'm very sensitive to energy, you know. Ultra sensitive to energy. Okay, now listen to the emotion in this reversal. Reversal says, my soul give the pain. My soul give the pain. My soul give the pain. You hear that cry?
Yes, it's making me cry. I'm an empath, so.
So I was feeling this pain down at the level of my soul. And even though you can't hear any hint of the cry forwards, in reverse, it's very pronounced. So,
wow. That must have helped you out a great deal to understand that, though.
Oh, it did. Oh, yeah. Oh, it helped me out heaps. Yeah, I did a whole tape. Well, it took me a couple of years to recover. I mean, you know,
sure. My goodness. Yes.
From a death of a child, you know.
You'd know. No. They're always there with you.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, so, why don't I play you some kids? I love kids.
Oh, kids are so great. This is awesome.
Yeah. Children are speaking backwards before they do forwards. From as early as 4 months of age, they are pronouncing simple single words. So, like, here's one here. Let's run it forwards. is at 4 months of age. Run it backwards and you'll hear this clear hello.
Oh my goodness.
Isn't that amazing? Yeah, let's do that again. That's at 4 months of age. So, and one of my favourite ones of all time is on my own daughter. And, she's in a bathtub and she's trying to pick up a cup. And, she can't pick it up and she reaches out to me for help. This is at 12 months of age. So let's run this forwards. And back where she says, David, help me.
Oh my gosh.
Isn't that amazing, hey? I'll play
Oh
that
my
again.
gosh.
Yeah, here it is one more time. Isn't that amazing, hey?
Oh my goodness. Let me share a real quick story with you.
Sure.
I had a tape recorder. My first grandson was born and he was about a year old and he was sitting in front of my stove on the floor playing with, plastic stuff right on the floor. And he was just playing and he was, just gibbering like a baby, like a, 12-month-old would, just not quite talking yet, et cetera and so forth. So I was recording him because he was making all these really strange noises and it was kind of fun. I decided to play it backwards. And in that message came through, it says, I want my daddy. I mean, it was amazing. And he was just playing and it seemed to be having a really good time. And what he said was, I want my daddy.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I wish I had that recording still. I do not have it anymore, but that was one of the few that I'd done. I thought, I'm just going to see what's going on here, because he's just talking away. And I thought, well, must be something he's saying there. So that's awesome. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, here's one that says, please daddy help. Here's the forwards.
Daddy.
Backwards, please daddy help.
Please daddy help. Please daddy help.
Okay, so.
Wow.
Yeah, amazing stuff. The applications of using reverse speech in child therapy, child psychology are just amazing. You can get in contact with a young child's mind at a far earlier age than what was previously possible with reverse speech. The unconscious is communicating, like I say, from as early as 4 months of age. And by the time they're 12, 18 months of age, the reverse speech is very complex with quite long and fascinating, eloquent phrases.
So let me ask you this. Like, let's say you're sitting down in a session, with a child and you're recording them, say, either one long period of time. Let's say they're chatting away for an hour. Okay.
Uh-huh.
And you play that whole thing back. In that hour, have you, that's a hypothetical, obviously, length of period of time, but in a lengthy period of time, is there like a story in the phrases? Do they connect, or are they just individual phrases or thought patterns?
Oh yeah, they connect. Oh yeah, you get this whole subtext of conversation going on. Oh yeah, the reversals run along from each other. It's an entire conversation backwards. So, and if you can record two people sitting down talking, just having casual chat, you'll hear this whole other conversation in reverse. It might be about what they're talking about, or it could be something completely different.
Fascinating.
Yes, it certainly is, to say the least.
Yeah, especially to think that, being who I am, I mean, I recognize, the higher level of communication, but to actually sit down and think about, well, when two people are just sitting there, just chewing the fat, so to speak, just chatting about whatever, life in general, and then to get this other conversation that has nothing to do with anything that they're speaking about is really fascinating. it just proves that we're just so multidimensional in some sense, David. I mean, my goodness.
Oh yeah.
Anybody ever come in and talk about where they actually come from besides planet Earth? Anything like that unusual?
Oh, yes, I got something like that unusual. Okay, let me go to my UFO files. And,
Oh my. Oh, we're going to open up some worms now. I love it.
Oh yeah, I've got 35 years of research here. I've got reversals on everything, the moon landing, JFK assassination, all UFOs. Okay. All right, here's one where they say where they came from. Okay, that's the question you asked. This is a man named Victor who claims he worked in Area 51 and was involved in the treatment of aliens. Okay, and he's using a voice changer. He's on the radio, and so here's the forwards.
So you're saying we really have not effectively communicated with them. There has been no vocal communication?
The aliens do not speak.
When he says the aliens do not speak, backwards he says it's from the Pleiades.
It's on the Pleiades.
And the Pleiades is a star system about 400 light years from Earth. So there you go. So I don't know.
Wow.
Make of that what you will, okay? So,
wow. Interesting that he would know that, right?
Interesting that he would know that. Yes, it makes you ask all sorts of questions.
Yes. Can I know where he's at? I'd actually like to talk to him. Just kidding.
Oh, gee,
not really.
Know where he's now.
No.
Yeah, so,
you know, my feeling is like, let's talk about that interview. And I'm sure you've done a lot of, looking at different interviews with different people. In this case, this particular one. So, you know, this guy was saying, you know, he was being asked specific questions and he was keeping his answers delegated to only the questions, but obviously the knowledge that this man had was coming through in the reverse speech, the knowing the truth, because he was, you know, in some way he was revealing it, but yet he wasn't speaking of it. That's so fascinating.
Oh, you get all sorts of incredible knowledge and information in reverse speech. It taps into what we call the collective unconscious. It will give glimpses into the future. Yeah, I'll play you two reversals. This one will send chills down your spine. This is JFK and his inaugural address in 1961. Okay, so here he is. He's just been sworn in as president.
The slow undoing of those human rights to which this nation has always been committed and to which we are committed today at home and around the world.
And here he says, head is hitting the car.
Head is hitting the car. Head is hitting the car.
You hear that?
Yes.
He was having a premonition of his death.
Oh my gosh.
We all know that shot very well from the Zapruder film of the headshot. And he was tapping into his own future. And reverse speech will do that. It will give insight into future tense events. Now here's one on me that is an amazing little reversal. This was one of my analysts analysed a radio interview I did. So here's a small section of this radio interview.
It's the most powerful way because you can hear it in straightforward everyday English. But we are hardwired to tell the truth.
And we had a reversal here that we had no idea what it meant. It says, on a highway, there's a chill here.
On a highway, there's a chill here. On a highway, there's a chill here.
So what on earth does that mean? I had no idea. Anyway, 2 weeks later, I'm flying to see a friend of mine in America, and the plane can't land because the airport snowed in. So flies back flies back to Portland. I go and hire a car, and within an hour I'm driving in this raging blizzard. I couldn't see 2 feet in front of me. I'm down 5 miles an hour. And literally that metaphor came true. I was on a highway in the blizzard. So on the highway, there's a chill here. So.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. How amazing. How amazing. And you don't, in reverse speech, other than, I guess we need to kind of clarify that, because you do have, your therapy sessions where somebody comes in and says, I'm talking to you about, my finances, my relationship issues, my family issues, whatever they are, right? But, so they'll be specific. I'm assuming that many of those, answers that those people are looking for come in the reverse speech. But what happens, is there times when there's a reverse speech that you hear it's just like totally off base of what they're talking about?
Yes, that does happen. Like that one I played you on a highway, there's a chill here, totally off base. So, yeah. Look, I'd say 80-90% of the reversals are all related to the forward. There's this direct contextual relationship. But yeah, sometimes they can totally come out of left field and have no idea what they mean. Like, for example, here's one I found on a client in Australia in 2001, June 2001. Okay, so, and he's talking forwards about psychic abilities.
That I said that, I will be an opener of souls and made the most credible feeling of my heart chakra just bursting wide open.
And then he had a reversal that said, soon plan evil on America.
Soon plan evil on America.
Oh my God.
Plan evil on America.
So I'm going, what on earth does that mean?
Oh.
No idea. Totally out of left field. Of course, you know what happens 3 months later. The planes flew into the Twin Towers. So he was actually having a premonition of the future 911. So that was reversal, totally out of left field,
Wow. So you're using this basically for therapy, for people and their issues and things like that. What other applications have you used this in, or do you use this in, that would, like probably in your early days, obviously you were the JFK tapes, for example. I'm sure you did a lot of studying on that. Maybe even Martin Luther King, any people that were world known. They made an impact on the world. Like Princess Diana, that kind of a thing. The Queen.
I got on all of them. Yeah. I mean, I in addition to my therapeutic work, I do media as well. But I hire out. I have a couple of analysts who work for me, and I hire them out to analyze media tapes for me, because I just don't get time. For
heaven's sakes, I guess not.
No, so I have a constant stream of current media reversals coming into my office all the time. So, some of the areas I use it in, I do a lot of work with companies and businesses, will their latest business venture be a success or not? And reverse speech will tell us. It'll tell us whether the business will be a success, whether it will be a failure. It'll tell us whether to trust the partners that we're going to go into business with. Like, for example, here's a man talking about opening up an office in the United States.
Yeah, in Australia, we're charging $1,500 for 3 days. Over there, it'd be $1,500 US for 3 days.
Oh, wow.
So, that is exciting to me.
Right.
I've got some contacts over there, and that's really where I'd like to go.
And backwards he says, start off with it, it will be profit.
Start off with it, it will be profit.
Start off with it, it will be profit.
So his reversals are telling him that this will be a successful business venture for him. And yeah, I have many corporate clients that come to me on a regular basis for for advice. Employee selection. Is the employee the right person to work for your firm? I can give you an accurate personality profile and what you can expect from them in their work performance. So many applications.
Wow. Out of all the years you've been doing this, and obviously you've been doing this for a very long time, and, kudos to you to have, first of all, to have such tenacity and vision, and, stick-to-itiveness to stay with something, and obviously it's a huge love of your heart. I mean, you've developed this in so many different ways, and, there's just so many things that it probably has uncovered. Has any of the things that you have uncovered in reverse speech, and I'm talking about here mostly in the media, or you like it mostly in your media, I would think, when you or your analysts are listening to public presentations, has there been anything that's been revealed that you have said, I got to pick up the phone and call this person and tell them what's really going on?
Yes, that's happened a few times. People don't take me seriously though. So, like I've called the police on several occasions, where I found information on a media tape. I tend to just keep my findings to myself and play them on the air more than anything else, So.
Right. Yeah, I bet you that would be tough though when you hear stuff like that and you go, oh, now what am I supposed to do with this information?
Yes,
and I think if you play it, if you get it out into the media, like on radio shows, or interviews that you might be doing like on YouTube that are put up or what have you, somebody's going to get wind of it. Somebody will certainly be listening, David, that will hopefully, be able to do something different.
Right. That's what I try to do. I put it out on the air, and with the hope that one day the right person's going to hear it and take the appropriate steps.
So now I have a very specific question here, and I don't know if you've actually ever had a conversation with anyone or have any information on this, but there's quite a few areas of interest as far as the world is concerned. Like chemtrails, HAARP, CERN. Do you have anything on those? Any pieces? No, nothing on that. That's too bad.
No,
okay.
Sorry.
That would be, that's okay. That would be just fabulous to hear somebody talk about what really HAARP is or where it's at or what it's doing, what CERN's actually doing.
Yeah.
Even NASA, what's really going on at NASA, what's going on with these chemtrails. That would be interesting. For your analysts maybe to look about that. Yeah.
So much work to do and so few
Can you hire a few more analysts maybe?
I wish I could get a few more to take training so I can train people up.
So are you are actually interested in training people to help you work?
Oh yeah. I have a regular. I do 2 classes a year. Yes, it's all done online. The next class starts April 21st. There's only a couple of seats left in that class. If anyone's interested, it's a 6-month course, 1 class every 2 weeks, 3-hour class, but a lot of homework assignment to be done. But fascinating class. People just love the class. So, if you're interested in a new career or want to become part of a new technology right at its inception, then give me a call. Can I get my number out?
Absolutely. And you can, I've got your website information here, but give out your website. We've still got a few more minutes and we'll have you repeat it again before you leave. But give out all that information right now if you would like. Absolutely perfect.
If you're interested in training or indeed session work or therapy, I've got an American number you can call me on. It's 503-568-7077. That's 503-568-7077. Rings at my desk here in Australia, but it's a local call for you in the United States.
So it actually trunks out over there. That's cool.
Yeah. Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Now, and this is for not only your training, but also for personal sessions.
Personal sessions.
Okay. Let's see. And let me look here real quick. I have I've been doing some research on your, David Oates. That's David, and Oates is OATES.com. DavidOates.com. And then you also have another one. It's onlyaMetaphor.com, where you have some books. A book that's available.
That's my latest book. You can get that. It's a 550 page saga. The story of reverse speech, government plots and assassination attempts and house fires, and how I developed the whole theory throughout all of these trials and tribulations. Fascinating read. People love the book. Go to itsonlyaMetaphor.com. Yeah.
Okay, so I want to hear some a little bit more of some conspiracy stuff that maybe we haven't heard before, or is still ongoing. Do you have anything like that you can easily access from there?
Oh, sure. How would you like some stuff on the JFK assassination?
That would be interesting.
Okay, all right. So I can tell you who the real killer was, and I can tell you who organised it and set the whole thing up. But let's start off first with a reversal on Lee Harvey Oswald, and here he is 3 months prior to the assassination on a radio interview.
The fact that I did live for a time in the Soviet Union gives me excellent qualifications to repudiate charges that Cuba and the Fair Play for Cuba Committee is communist control.
Backwards he says, hear them, the wish to kill president.
Hear them, the wish to kill president. Hear them, the wish to kill president.
So there he is, 3 months prior to the assassination, has knowledge of other people involved in assassination attempt on JFK. And here he is after he's been arrested.
I didn't shoot anybody, sir. I haven't been told what I'm here for. You have a lawyer? No, sir, I don't.
And here he says, all 3 men are walking.
All 3 men are walking. All 3 men are walking.
So what 3 men is he talking about? Well, there was 3 assassins in a triangulation. And here is one of the assassins. This is a man by the name of James Files, who claims that he was a mafia hitman and he was a man behind the grassy knoll. And here he is talking about how he hit Kennedy with his round.
You ever notice if any of those rounds hit that stand?
No. I don't know if anybody else has hit it or not. As far as I know, their rounds never hit it. I know my round didn't hit it. Like I say, I fired 1 shot. I was on target.
I said I fired 1 shot. I was on target, talking about hitting Kennedy in the head. Backwards he says, hit him with my round.
It ended my round.
It ended my round. It ended my round.
So he's telling a true story. James Files, he was just released on parole last year. He claims he was the assassin behind the grassy knoll. There were 2 other men involved. They were all mafia hitmen. The orders came, it was, oh gee whiz. Well look, I could do a whole show on this. There's a conspiracy. Conspiracies are endless in this as to who organized it, why it was done. I've got it all. So, well, there you go.
Well, can you give us the one that shows who organized it, that tells you who organized it, and then we'll move on from there.
Okay. Here's J. Edgar Hoover.
And that the plastic cup to it was down. Of course, the president had insisted upon that so that he could stand up and wave to the crowd.
Here he says, and I finance this evil.
Finance the evil.
Finance the evil.
So J. Edgar Hoover sets the whole thing up. He did an association with the mafia. Some of the initial orders came from Israel, because JFK was wanting to do nuclear inspections. It's conspiracies inside conspiracies inside conspiracies in the JFK assassination.
Yeah, I heard that it was many, many levels deep, that it wasn't just one thing that they decided on, that there was many things. And, he gave his life, to try to be a stand-up guy. And, his life was taken from him. Really, that's the way I feel about it anyway.
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, you're right. I agree.
Wow. Yep. That's crazy. Well, we've got about, JP, we've got about 10 minutes left, maybe?
Yeah, about that.
So we got 10 minutes left, David, and I know that you're, wanted to there's a few things that you wanted to talk about. And I know that your therapy stuff, by the way, that just sounds just too fabulous for words, that therapy, that you're doing with people. What else would you like to share with people, as far as either, examples of your reverse speech, in the next 10 minutes? You've got quite a few areas of passion and interest.
Oh, I know.
So I'm trying to, this is my first time with you, so I'm not quite sure how to narrow it down for you.
All right, let me play you a reversal that shows you the depth that reverse speech is coming from. Hang on, I'll have to go to. I thought I had it at the top of my head. Where is it? This is okay. Here we are. This is reversal on me, and I'm on a radio show, and I'm talking about the spiritual aspect of reverse speech. So here's the forwards.
Some people ask me, does reverse speech endorse any particular religion? And the answer to that is no. There are no deities or religions that reverse speech endorses or says this is right or this is wrong. It just talks about the soul and the endlessness of life. And that in itself is very powerful.
Indeed. And backwards it says, it's the voice in heaven.
It's the voice in heaven.
It's the voice in heaven.
And again.
It's the voice in heaven.
Heaven resides within, according to reverse speech, and reverse speech is coming from that deep spiritual part of us. It's the voice of the spirit, or the voice of the heart, however you understand it as being. It's the real self, speaking. And, sometimes, I love this example. This is an example of the spirit talking. This is a man who's got money problems, and he's talking to his tape recorder, looking for some advice.
Does it further for us to put more energy and money and effort?
And this one says, you're frightened, lean on me.
You're frightened, lean on me.
You're frightened, lean on me.
And that's his spirit talking to him, saying, I know you're frightened, I know you're upset. Don't worry, just lean on me, trust in me. And you can get amazing insights with reverse speech. You can actually hear the voice of the spirit talking to you. And how many ways do we try to tap into that inner voice? We use meditation and hypnosis and prayer, and there's so many different techniques that people try to hear that small, still voice within. And reverse speech is that small, still voice within. And it's an amazing discovery. It's an incredible discovery. And as I hope it's accepted in my lifetime. I really do. I really want to see this thing take off big, and the insights it can give us into human nature and the psyche and consciousness and who we are as beings and our destiny and purpose. It's all there. It all resides in the heart. And reverse speech taps into that. So there you go. I don't know.
Well, that's a really, that's really a high value technique. When I'm listening to some of these recordings that you're doing, and I know some of the other people out in the audience, because I can feel them, are having the same reactions when you're playing some of this. There's several reactions that I get. First of all, some of them are emotional. They trigger some kind of an emotion, where it makes me feel like I want to cry. Now, crying isn't necessarily a sad thing. It can just be a body response to somebody speaking a truth that's so profound. Especially when you were playing the ones where people were talking about the soul and the spirit and heaven and all of that. It's absolutely amazing, some of the triggers, so to speak, that happen when you listen to it in, somebody's conversation and their responses that come out. And the other trigger for me was, I I call it my truth. I call it the good willies. It's like some kind of an electrical current that runs through it that I recognize in my own barometer that that's somebody speaking the truth. It just resonates. It's a resonation, I guess, for the lack of a better way of saying it. Absolutely fabulous. And when you say you want recognition for it, how do you mean that? Do you want it to be like, taught in schools? You want the government to acknowledge it more? I mean, there's so many ways.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, in the 35 years I've been doing this, I've compiled so much research to validate this and to prove it's real. It needs to be looked at seriously. Some government body, I mean, maybe they are, and they're just not telling me, but
yeah, I would suggest.
It needs very serious study and research.
And working with children, we can find out what their issues are in the beginning, and it would create less dysfunction if a parent could have an insight into their child and what they're really saying and what they're needing and what they're sharing. Oh my gosh. I mean, the tool is just invaluable.
It is. Yeah. It really is a discovery of the 20th century that can change everything. If you're a spiritual person, I think it gives us concrete proof of the existence of the spirit and the human soul. In an area that has just been an area of faith before, reverse speech details it and explains it and describes it.
I played around with it a little bit myself many, many years ago, and did quite a few reverse speech, and it was pretty fascinating. Some of the things that came out in it. And my stuff was a lot of, off-world stuff, talking about different types of, beings and things like that. It was really kind of interesting. Creepy, too. Some of it was creepy. Yeah, I'm like, yeah. It's kind of interesting. Well, okay, so we've just got a few more minutes left. Last week, or the week before last, I ran out of time, before the break. So I want to give you an opportunity again to give your phone number, and your websites have been posted in the chat rooms, but if you will, go ahead and give that information again and about your book.
Yeah, my phone number is 503-568-7077. That's 503-568-7077. If you want to try this for yourself, we have an app for the iPhone. You can download that on the App Store. Just search for iReverse Speech. The Android app's coming out in about 6 weeks, so that's not far behind. My books, you can get them all from our website, reversespeech.com. Or if you want to get the best one, It's Only a Metaphor. That is, It's Only a Metaphor.com. And, go and have a look. And if you're interested in training or session work, give me a call and spread the word. Tell your friends about it. If we can get people downloading the app, finding reversals and posting them on YouTube, we can start a groundswell movement here. So.
Ooh, hey, I kind of like that idea, David.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
that would be fun. Listen, if somebody's interested in like taking your class, is there any special equipment? I keep meaning to ask you that anybody would need to have.
Well, you obviously need a PC. The software is included in the price of the course, so you just need a PC. Yep.
Okay. Wow. Well, then, because you do it online anyway, so nobody even has to leave home to do it. So that's fascinating. Well, David, I have to tell you, I have a client who said you have to get him on, and I was like, okay, so when you said you would do it, I was like, oh my gosh, this is great. She's going to love it. I'm going to love it because it's an area that I used to, be very, very interested in, kind of get away from it. You've given me a renewed, interest in it, and I thank you so much, obviously, for being here. Okay. And David, thank you so much, sweetie. We'll be in touch. All right. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.
All righty, honey. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
Okay, so we got a couple more minutes while it's running the adverts, but we're off the air.
Okay, so you and I can chat for a minute.
One moment. Go.
All right, everyone. Welcome back. And you're listening to Journeys with Rebecca right here on wolfspiritradio.com and also Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, Studio B. Again, I want to welcome everybody. If you missed the first hour, you must go back and listen to it. My guest in the first hour was David Oates, the founder and the discoverer of reverse speech, has written 4 or 5 books. It was a fabulous conversation. He gave us a bunch of clips from the whole gamut of life, from, conspiracy to personal relationships to children, to spiritual conversations, the JFK assassination, and people that have had premonitions. Very fascinating gentleman. It was a really delightful to have him on. And I want to thank Jasmine, and she knows who she is. Jasmine, thank you very much. And she will understand that statement. And I want to wish all of you a really good evening. I hope everyone's having a good time, and I'm glad to see everyone here tonight. Now, in this second hour, because I wasn't prepared to have an hour to actually chat with you, I thought David was going to be on for 2 hours, but not unlike most everyone, experiencing tiredness, headaches, a lot of different maladies that are kind of plaguing, so to speak, many people. So let's talk about that just for a moment. By the way, I wish JP a complete reversal of his headache. He has one of those terrible headaches that kind of make you sick to your stomach. So kudos to JP for hanging in there and being tough, and hopefully he will recover from this very quickly, because they can be quite devastating. Last week, I myself experienced a very, very bad headache. It's so bad that for 3 days I had my drapes closed. I was pretty much unable to do much of anything. Very, very sick with this headache. It was just absolutely almost laid me out. Many people are experiencing things like that. They're experiencing different kinds of physical ailments that seem to come and go. In other words, they're not consistent. A lot of people complaining about heart issues, blood pressure issues. There's a lot of reasons for it. I want to kind of hone in and talk about, though, the energetics behind it. The energies, we've talked about the energies being pretty strong right now. The wave is hitting us. We also had that magnetic pulse that came through. And both of those things are still being felt. It's not like they've went away. They're still being felt. The presence is still here. It affects different people differently. Some it affects a lot more than others, some that are very sensitive. So if you know things like this are happening, you can, if you know they're going to happen, or at the beginning of something happening, there's some things that you can do for yourself that help to make you feel a little better. As much work as I did, knowing that this wave was here and it was coming and it was there, it did not stop my symptoms. And the reason why it didn't stop the symptoms is because we all have to kind of acclimate ourselves to these new types of energies. They aren't the same, and so we all kind of have to find our footing in them. There's not one cure. There's not one way of doing it. We each have to find our own, because our physiology is different from one person to the next. Our vibrational fields, our frequencies, our energetic fields, everything about us is different from every other person. That's what makes us unique. That's, kind of scientifically proven if you want to look at DNA. And when they really get down into the DNA and get into the genetics, you're going to really find out how fine-tuned each individual is. I can hardly wait till they actually bring out that information. It's not that they don't already know it. It's just that the general public doesn't know it yet. So we're having some strange things go on, and JP wanted maybe for me to talk about dreams a little bit and how strange they've been. I shared with you 2 weeks ago when I was on about the night vision I had of Dave Corso, and he stayed with me in that kind of same aspect for about 4 days, and then I looked up and he kind of bowed and he was gone, and that energy field that he carried with him was also gone. So whatever he was here to do or to communicate with me, he felt like he had accomplished that for the moment. That doesn't mean he won't be back. But it speaks to these new energies, and because we're changing, each of us are changing in frequency, vibration, our thought processes, our vibrations. Every time we eat something new or different, or we introduce new things into our diet, et cetera and so forth, all that changes us. It changes us, and we change each day. From one moment to the next, even, we change. We're constantly rebuilding. Our frequencies and information is coming in, energy is coming in, and then it's released, and it works through us, and it's released, and it just changes us specifically as well as, collectively. So there's been a lot of information about dreams, and so I would like to open up the lines of communication to those who are listening tonight. Dreams happens to be an area of my forte, one of my fortes. I absolutely love dreams because they're so multi-level. They're so informative. They're revealing, much like the reverse speech is revealing, so is our dream time. What may feel disjointed or out of place or just really messed up to some people, when you start looking at it, the messages may be way different than what you think. So if you have a dream or something that you would like to ask in regards to that, please don't hesitate to ask me a question tonight. Put it in all caps in the chat box, and I'd be happy to answer any questions on dreams or these energies, as we were speaking about, and how they can affect the physical form. And JP, I know you're not feeling well, but I would like you to open your mic and maybe share with me, if you will, what some of your dreams have been, or where you would like me to go with this for you.
Well, the one I woke up with, this morning it wasn't strange. I was just like building an aeroplane or something, and it was made of the wrong materials. It's like it wouldn't fly. But yesterday was particularly strange. Well, it was like almost like a kind of, how can I put this? The people were torturing things, like there was one woman who was torturing a chicken, but in a really in a way that it wouldn't be noticed. The way that police would hit you with a rubber hammer or something like that. Rubber coated hammer, so it wouldn't make any bruises, but it would like really hurt.
Okay.
And then, next to her was another woman. This is only one part of it, but it was like, this is the bit that kind of I woke up remembering. There was another one where another woman who was like, there was human meat in the food that she was cooking. And it was like she was making, jollily making a loaf of bread or something. And I knew there was like human bodies in it. It was really sick. Yeah, gonna wake up the next day feeling sick. So, I don't know. These are shadows. These are what do you think?
Well, again, multi-level here. First of all, is that you are very concerned with pedophilia, with injustices, with abuses. You yourself personally, that's a personal way that you feel. So these things that are being shown to you in the dream time is telling you what your soul needs. You kind of need to purge the sickness that you feel around that, and instead do a mission, as it were. And you can do a blog on it, whatever you need to do to refocus some of that energy. Do some research, post that research on these abuses that we aren't looking at. In other words, what you're doing is you're looking at things that people are unwilling to look at, like the abuse of the chicken, right? The abuse of humans. That can be human trafficking, children trafficking, pedophilia, that kind of thing. These are things that most people aren't really willing to look at. It is coming out in the open more and more, but for you personally, on a soul and a spirit level, JP, even if you don't post this, I think it's something that you need to do in order to put your feelings, your thoughts, your sickness and illness about this into some form so that you can purge the sickness and illness. It doesn't make it go away. What it does is it purges the sickness and illness that you feel about it, because you're at least expressing it.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I need to make some writings, yes. Oh, okay.
Or audio, even making yourself some audio clips on it. It doesn't matter. But, and for anybody who wants to take up the gauntlet, so to speak, and speak about these abuses, because that's really what this is. And also I would suggest to you is to explore a past life with more than one. They're saying, past life, with either witnessing this or being a participant in it. Or both.
Okay.
And that maybe is the reason why it's such a sick thing for you, is because it is a sickness.
Yeah, well, in 86, when I was in a hospital, in a coma, I had this series of 10 dreams, and in one of them, you know how dreams are always messed up, but dreams when you're on these, hospital meds that kept you asleep. One of them was, it was like they got, they got a motorcyclist who was, nearly dead, and they would film it and torture it. And I knew nothing about like snuff movies or anything at the time. But essentially, I was kind of witnessing, some kind of snuff movie being made that was, this guy's gonna die anyway, so let's have our way with him. Obviously, that was pretty disturbing, but again, there's that sort of thing. So there's been a lot of cruelty on this planet since time immemorial. I mean, this is probably quite, what's the word? You look at the old Roman Empire and the sort of things. Look at the Spanish Inquisition and what they got up to then. So, it's not new.
No, unfortunately it's not. It's ancient old. And it's something that the collective consciousness holds in its memory banks, right? And it's part of what we call the construct as well. Typically and naturally speaking, the human was not built, was created, however you want to word that word. I'm not going to get into semantics or politically correct here. The human in itself, we are not unkind beings. We are actually very loving and open beings when we are in a higher state of consciousness, spiritual awareness, higher vibratory and resonance field. We are naturally kind and loving individuals. We're very creative. We're very industrious. We're loving. But when you put technology to control, we're also very easily controlled, because there's a naivety about being human. We have a naivety about us, because most of us don't typically look at people with skepticism, distrust, those kind of things. We have a tendency to look at people, and I try to take every person at face value, and it depends on how I resonate with them and, how they are with me, as far as whether I discern whether or not this person I'm going to allow this person to enter my space, or I'm going to leave their space, one of the two, right? So the construct itself, getting back into that technology, it's based on, I'm going to call it super quantum, because it's quantum in a sense, but it goes a little bit beyond and above that. It's a technology that has enveloped this planet, and it's technology that I've talked about before. I've talked about the construct for many years, off and on, a little bit here and a little bit there, but it is an influencer. So it knows how to take those vibrations that we all give out and tweak them And eventually, it's like if somebody tells you long enough, every day, day in and day out, that you're stupid, 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 at some point, you're going to begin to believe you're stupid. And when you begin to believe you're stupid, you may begin to act like you're stupid. Right? So that's how that happens. It's a level thing. It's a psychological, warfare on the human energetic field. And then that transfers itself into the mind, so to speak. And it then becomes kind of imprinted into the genetic code because all of our memories go with us. Even if we don't remember them, our memories of the things that we've done and who we've been come to pass over and over again, and somewhere that gets triggered. And then the construct again puts itself out there. That's, when we talk about reincarnation. And it's like a layering of the cake. And it becomes more and more embedded within us. And then there's many people that are walking this planet now that have repeatedly come in time and time again. And that vibrational twig, so to speak, or line has been tweaked enough to where that's how they act all the time. And it's very difficult to find that spark of light within them. But it's all part of the construct. And now we're talking about only humans. We're not talking about hybrids. We're not talking about off-planet people. We're not talking about that. We're talking about humans here, who we've been in this reincarnation wheel over and over and over and over and over again. Which, by the way, that was part of the construct's purpose when it was built, was to keep us in this kind of field, to be a repetitive pattern, to come in and in, playing at leapfrog through the years, through the millennia, through thousands of years. We've been doing this over and over and over again. So if you think that this is, 12 to 15,000 years, how many life cycles could you have reincarnated in? And so you can see how it can become quite an effective tool for these abuses that we're currently experiencing on this planet. However, that being said, there are those that get into this repetitive pattern, and at some point they wake up and they say, I think that's the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different outcome. Eventually, the thrill or the joy or the happiness or whatever sickness that these people feel when they commit these atrocities repeatedly, life cycle through life cycle, they get an idea that, hey, maybe there's something different. Maybe I can try something different. And the light comes on. And then this is how you break free of the construct, is that you have to realize that negative programming, that negative feelings, those negative things, because the human being was not created this way. Genetically, when you speak about us as being a clean slate, we were created out of love. We were created to love. We were created in a different manner than all other beings were created. The human was. We are a very unique breed of species. And through the many, many millions of years, or however long it's been, that the human being has been toyed with, we've been messed with, we've been manipulated and altered, not only energetically on all the different levels, but also physically, mentally, and emotionally and spiritually. We've been manipulated. Some people now you'll see have been breaking free. It's been going on in a lot in the last 40 to 50 years, breaking free from this cycle, because we are in a different space, we're in a different time, and also because the construct itself, and I've said this before, it was not built to last forever. As a matter of fact, when it was built, when it was created, they knew it had a life expectancy. They just did not know what the life expectancy of it was. When this planet, because its vibrations have been raised, because the human being themselves have become more educated, and there's more of us that have become more educated and more awake and more aware and more in their vibrational frequencies have risen, and we've scoured through the dirt and the dust and all the hidden things, and we're making our way through this cobweb of lies and deceit. And we figured out that, hey, this is not the truth of who we are. So we are now at a tipping point where we can now break free of this construct, break free of the chains that bind us, because that is why it has been called the prison planet, is because of the construct. So these dreams that you have, these are things that you hold in your own heart. We all have something that we have an affinity to. Yours is abuses of all forms, right? And you've experienced that through your dream time, these abuses. And I would suggest that some of them may also be that you are witnessing something that may have already transpired in the past to somebody else, right?
Hopefully.
Pardon me, just a moment. Go ahead, you talk.
Yeah, well, hopefully. I mean, it was this very surreal situation. And it was like, oh, I can't really react strongly to this, because it was like everything was normal. But it had this really kind of Nazi feel about it, you know. So I don't know if they were really chickens or whether they were like symbolic or something like that. But it was kind of like usual, but kind of weird usual, if you see what I mean. You know, maybe alternative timeline or something. Kind of
it could be. It could be an alternative timeline. And let's also look at the fact that when you look at a chicken, you know, how many times have other children called other children chicken because they wouldn't do something? It could also be a representative of a human being.
Yeah.
Right? It can also be representative of a chicken or, you know, the mammal kingdom itself. I mean, I think it's multi-level here with what it could actually be talking about, but, that's a huge one, JP, and obviously it has disturbed you enough to where, you know, through the years that you have to, for yourself personally, you'll have to figure out how to release the feelings of it, but not the importance of it. It's important. It's important to know that these things, you know, everything was normal, but it wasn't normal. It was, you know, this is not normal. That's not normal behavior. That is not, and, you know, of course, the definition of normal is what, right? I guess it's your perspective. And it's a relative term. Here I am using that a phrase again tonight. For some people, it may be normal in their world. For me, when I look at that, JP, it turns my stomach. It makes me want to go sit in a corner and cry.
Well, exactly. You know, it was very disturbing. Is it, you know, even just to see what was going on in there, it was something that was like for one group, and, you know, it might be like your elites. It was a sort of usual everyday thing, but I was feeling very horrible. You know, it was just like, I've got to get out of here or something kind of feeling. So, yeah, so that was yesterday morning, waking up to that one. So, but today didn't feel so bad.
And it's kind of hung with you?
Well, you know, we've been talking about the psychic world and what's going on. There's a lot of solar flares. I woke up uncomfortable and head aching this morning. So, you know, it's just been kind of going on.
Yeah. Well, how's your sleep patterns been? Because mine's been totally jacked up.
I'm getting to sleep, and then it's like my normal sort of, I sleep for a bit, and then I wake up, let the chickens out, and then go back to sleep. Yeah.
Yeah, see, so mine has been where some nights I'll fall asleep at 7:00. Other nights it's 3 a.m. Some mornings I wake up at 5:30. This morning I didn't wake up until 9. I mean, what's up with that, right? So it used to make me really crazy, by the way, because I'm, you know, I'm still a recovering OCD person. And this morning I woke up and I was like, okay, so it's 9:00, whatever. Does it make a difference? I always have to ask myself that question. And I suggest people doing the same thing. Does this really make a difference? In the grand scheme of things, no, it didn't. It didn't matter if I woke up at 4, if I woke up at 1 a.m., if I woke up at noon. In the grand scheme of things, it made no difference. It's not important, in other words. Don't get jacked up over when you wake up, when you go to sleep, when you don't, when you do. You know, obviously there's some people that have, you know, schedules that they have to keep. You know, they have a regular job they have to get to, so it's important to them. For those who don't have regular jobs or have jobs that they can do in their home or what have you, time is not quite clock time. Let me reframe that. Clock time isn't such a big enormity as it used to be, right? The only time it matters to me is Monday nights at 7 p.m. Central Time. That's when it matters. And for you, I would suspect it's because you have certain shows that you have to do, so you know you have to be there and present during certain times. And then other times, I'm not so sure that it really matters to you when you get up or when you don't get up, yes?
Yeah, well, I get up a lot later in the day than normal. But here's the thing. I had a conversation with Shari Edwards last night, and, you know, she's into
I was thinking about her today.
Very interesting show, and it's in the Wolfsbury Current archives if you want to get that from today for another week. But she was saying if you wake up at a regular time and you look at the clock and it's the same time every day, then there may be some significance in that moment of time. That it's a perhaps it's a chemical that you need, a vitamin or a mineral or something like that. It's to do with its frequency or maybe a part of your body or something like that.
So does she go on to tell you how you can figure out what it is?
Good question.
Because,
not much detail.
I
mean, obviously, every day is every different time has a different significance, and yeah.
Right, but let's say you woke up at 4:42 every day for a month. So that number, is it the number frequency? Because then are we moving into a numerology that way?
Essentially, yes.
Okay.
Essentially,
that was
yes.
kind of my question.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So, Comet's got a dream that he's had. This is from the Revolution Radio chat. Let me just say, let me bring him. I'll give him the call number. Call 1-775-773-3431. We've got about half an hour to go, and you can call in on that and see what happens.
Okay. Now, who is this?
This is Comet in the Revolution Radio chat room.
Okay. Hopefully they'll call in.
Yeah.
That'd be great. Okay, so Shari Edwards is all about vibrations, and yes, and I recognize that. And I think that's interesting. I did not know she was on your show. And I was thinking about her today, and I thought, I'd like to have her on my show, so I guess I won't because you just had her on. So I'll wait for a little while and have her on maybe in a month or so.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't want to do that stuff too close to it, but I really enjoy her information. I enjoy her work. It's such a valuable tool, especially in these times that we live in.
She's also doing, her therapy courses. She's also doing those for free. And, the details, you can check it out on the show. It's there at wolfspiritradio.com/listen. Look under current archives. You can get it today for the next 6 days.
Okay. Now, if Comet calls in, great, but I'm going to read, there's a question from the chat box from Denise.
Go ahead.
In my dream, I was working, connecting with the Elohim with the royal blue robe, and when I woke up, it was 5:55. I know 5 is change, and change could bring chaos, but 5:55. Remember, everything that comes in threes, can can also be relegated to the idea of it being divine or spiritual, if you will, the Trinity. And so anytime that you have a triple number that's always the same, chaos could be in the eyes of the beholder, but change is change. So you have to look at how you view change, and don't think of change as chaotic, but look at it as an opportunity for new information, new growth, and new beginnings. And please remember that this message came to you in a number that is the Trinity or the triple. And so for me, I feel like that's very positive. And if you'd like to follow up with me, Denise, on that, if this wasn't clear enough for you, please do contact me. And thank you so much for being on the show tonight. Do we have Comet on?
Yes, this is Comet. Hi, how you doing?
I'm fine. Comet. How are you?
Hey, JP. Listen to your show over and over and over and over and over. I don't know if we've ever been on the same line, no, or maybe on a round table. But anyway, look, I have this dream, and this is not made up. This is exactly how it happened, and it recurred over and over and over up until probably into my 30s, maybe into my 40s even, but certainly up until my 30s, this recurring dream, and then it just kind of quit, but I'll never forget it, except in this dream, the faces are kind of blank or almost I can't explain them because I can't remember what the faces look. Almost they're just like blank faces. Okay, but anyway, I'm a kid. I always had to ride the bus to school, and home. So I have this dream that I'd get up to go get on the bus, and when the bus driver would open the door, I would go to get on the bus, and I could not pick my foot up to put it on the bus. I did not want to get on that bus, and I would look up at the bus driver, and I know this, after everything gets said on here, but this bus driver and faceless, although faceless, reminded me of something that we would describe as a gray. Okay, although that is the only part of this whole deal that has to do with anything of that sort. But anyway, so finally, through trial, I mean, people were behind me, kids were behind me, pushing me, get on the bus. So I finally was able to get that foot up on the bus, and I finally got on the bus and went in, and I sat out. And instead of this bus driver taking us to school, we go way off in the country. Of course, we had to do that anyway because we had to pick up a lot of kids anyway. But we went way off in the country, and we end up crossing this old rickety wooden bridge on the bus. And on the other side of this bridge was almost like an island. But the water would be like way down below the bridge that we had to cross, almost like an island standing up out of the water, like a Grand Canyon type deal. And we'd get on the other side of this bridge, and it'd just circle around. There was some trees in the middle with a table there and a box, and then it would circle around, and then it was just one way back across the bridge. Well, this bus would get over there and drop me off by myself on this little island, and it'd take off and it'd go back across that bridge. But when it crossed the bridge, as it crossed, all the boards would fall off of the bridge. Okay, and so I'm trapped on this island, and then out of these little woods, there's not many of them, but all of a sudden out of these woods, these creatures come out that I would describe as maybe an 8-man type deal. And they come over there, and they open this box, and I can't remember if it's 3 or 4. There was either 3 or 4 guns, pistols in this box, but they were all different colors. It was green, blue, red, yellow. And the only thing he would tell me is, choose a gun. And no matter which gun in the dream I choose, he'd always say, no, that one's mine. And I would end up having to take something else. And I really can't remember which one I would choose because I had this dream over and over and over, and it just seemed like no matter which one I choose, it was always, I would never get that one. So then I'd grab this gun, and as soon as I did, the bullets would start flying like lasers all over the place, and I'd just take off running because my gun never did work. So I'd take off running, and even though the boards on this bridge had fell off, the where the boards went across, I guess what you call it, trusses, was still there, and I'd take off trying to run across these trusses to get across this bridge. I'd get halfway across and fall and wake up halfway down. And this dream would occur over and over and over many, many times.
Okay. So, first of all, I'm sorry that you had to have that on a recurring basis, because that's quite a story there. And it's, I'm sure as a kid, and especially when you got to be a little bit older, you were like, oh my God, what is this, and it can leave you feeling very depleted and freaked out. So,
yeah, because every time it would start, I already knew the ending, but I always had to go through it anyway.
Yeah. And this is what lucid dreaming is good for, and we're not going to get into that right in the moment because I really want to talk to you about your dream. First of all, this is a 2-level dream. There's more than that, but we're going to talk about 2 levels here for you. Comment. First one is, this has to do with past lives. And, in these past life, especially in one of them specifically, did not occur here on this planet. And the second one is about, like a school bus and an island, and although they seemed like regular things in this real world, they were slightly distorted, not quite like they would be if it was real life, et cetera, and so forth. There was a school bus, and, there was kids behind you, and you had to get on the bus. Now, it's interesting that you brought up this kind of faceless driver. Literally today, and you have to pay attention when things trend, and this is a trend. I was talking to somebody about the faceless people, about like they're just faceless, and that I ran across these people in some of my journeys and travels, so to speak, and they're soulless, by the way. They don't have a soul, and they're not AI. They're biological beings, but they're if you can imagine a 3D printer printing a biological being and then, charging it with electricity so that it moves and it acts, and it has a brain, but it doesn't have a soul. Okay? So it's interesting that this...
Is like the brain pre-programmed? Is it a programmed brain, or is it individual?
It's
not that, I don't guess it really
almost
matters.
like a cyborg kind of a thing, almost.
Yeah, okay.
Almost like a cyborg thing, like a hive mind mentality, maybe. Soulless. It's a soulless creature. I just think that's fascinating that I just was speaking about that not a few hours before the show. It's just amazing to me. So this person, this thing, this entity was here to pick you up, and you knew, there was dread. There was this, I can't get on this bus. I can just feel you sickness in your stomach. I can feel the lead in your feet. I can feel that. And it's, you just know you're going like, somewhere I have to break this, but you're in your mind, even when you were in your 30s, you were still a little kid. What's a little kid going to do? You can't buck the system. So you get on the bus. You get on the bus and you go, and you know exactly what's going to happen. You're on this island by yourself. This island actually represents another time and place in space. Okay? The fact that you are always having to choose, and no matter what you choose, it was the wrong one. And these ape-like creatures, so to speak, that were communicating to you, were probably beings at some point that you've actually interacted with. And the fact that you kept having to pick the wrong one, it didn't matter what you picked, and that you fell to your death. That's you try to make your great escape. So here's what I would tell you. First of all, is that regardless of whether you're still having that dream or not, do you meditate at all? Can you visualize? Obviously you can visualize because you shared your dream with me.
Yes, I don't meditate per se, but I'm always in thought. My mind is always thinking.
Okay, so let's go back through the dream. Let's just go back through the dream. There's 3 or 4 points here in which you can change that. Lucid dreaming is when you're in the dream, you're having a dream, and you change the outcome, you change the action. So you're not having that dream, but you have a memory of that dream, so that's an imprint in your biological being, in your body, in your soul, in your mind, in your spirit, right? It's still there. And it still bothers you. So you haven't made peace with it. So what you have to do is you replay this dream over and over in your mind. Each time make something different. Make your feet not get on the bus. Make you turn around and tell everyone, you all can get on the bus, but I'm not getting on the bus today. And that's it. And you walk away. The next thing is maybe you can't get to that point. So you get on the bus, and when you get to the island and you realize you're the only one getting off, don't get off the bus. Say, I'm not getting off unless everybody else gets off. Okay, if you can't do that, then when the bus crosses, don't let those slats fall down through there. If you can't get to that point, then don't run across the bridge. Don't run across the bridge. You change anything. Yep, you change it to a different outcome. You change it. You stop, and those are fears. The fear of getting on the bus of the soulless ones, the fear of having to choose the wrong weapon, the fear of having to run for your life, the fear of knowing you're going to go to your death. Those are all fears. Those are just separate spots.
Are these childhood fears? Are these normal fears? Or are these...
I don't know if they're normal, but I will tell you I had a recurring dream, and I call it the Shadow Man. And he was very real. Very real. Okay, so, what is that? I mean, is it an imagination? I don't think so. I think our dreams are very, very specific. They give us information. There's things that we have to heal. There's things that we have to deal with, and we have to look at, right? So right. I feel very, very powerful and positive for you that if you go back through this dream and you take it sequence by sequence and change anything and keep doing it.
This doesn't have to do with this particular dream, but at some point in my time, in my life, I had a dream. Just a couple. It wasn't what you'd call a recurring dream, but it did happen 2 or 3 times. And in this particular dream, some bad things started happening. And I looked at the people that was going on. I said, this is just a dream. And then from there on, I controlled it, everything. And I just never could understand why I was able to do it just in that one dream. I just like, man, this is just a dream. What? Why should I? But I was never able to do that except in that one dream, and it only happened a couple of times, and I really can't remember a whole lot about the dream except that I do remember that part of it, that in my dream I was able to recognize it was a dream.
Okay, so that's a lucid dream, so what you have to tell yourself now is that I haven't been able to do it. You need to say, at this point, up until this point, I haven't achieved that again, but I will. I can.
So somehow, if I need to put that into effect in the other dream?
Yeah. Any other dreams that you come to, you can change any of them as long as you wake up in the dream without fully coming into full waking consciousness, because then you're not in your dream.
Right.
Now you're back into this world, right? So you wake up in your dream and you recognize I'm in a dream. Okay, well, I don't like what's going on here, so I'm going to change it. Or you simply quit participating in the dream and become an observer. So it's not, you go, oh, well, that's not going to happen. You can sit back and go, no. And you're not really participating, but you're not agreeing with it either. That's also part of a lucid dream.
I'm not going to hold you up any longer. I do appreciate your time, but I will say one thing. Sometimes I believe that the deja vu moments that we have may have been us dreaming what was going to occur and then it actually occurring, and that's why we have the deja vu.
You know what? I'm not sure that that's incorrect at all.
Okay.
I think you might be on that.
Yes, I do appreciate your time, and I love your show, JP. I always have. You've always been great, man. Thank you.
Thank you, Comet.
All right. Bye-bye.
Good night, Comet. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
So,
well, that was really good.
Faceless people.
Yeah, that came up today. I was talking with my friend, and I was telling her about some stuff. Actually, I was talking about my book. Can I talk about that for a minute, and then I'll segue back into that? My book, by the way, is being proofread. The whole thing is done with the exception of the proofreading. Once that is completed, it then goes in for its first production, where I get my proof copy back. And once that's been approved or any changes need to be made, then it's going to go into full production. So I'm hoping within the next few weeks that it's going to be completed. It's absolutely fantastic. I think everyone's going to love it. It's got some of the most awesome illustrations in it. It's just too cool for itself. So I'll also be sharing where people can get it and that kind of a thing when it gets a little bit closer and I have that specific information. So in my book, and I've talked a little bit about some of the things that I've seen through the years, but there's a specific chapter in which I talk about being in space, and I'm actually in Earth's upper atmosphere, and there's all these other ships around there, and talking about the different beings. And one of the things that I was talking about was the faceless, soulless beings. They're entities, but they're faceless. They like have no eyes. They have a profile where eyes could be and a nose could be and a mouth could be and ears could be, but there isn't any of those things. And yet they walk around, they don't talk obviously, and they're extremely strange beings. They kind of give me the El Creepos. Really big time. These faceless, soulless entities. And, yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. They do exist, by the way. They do exist. In case you were wondering. Was there something else that you wanted to talk about with that?
Well, it just reminds me of what people talk about the MIBs.
Yeah, they're a lot like an MIB, except for they're faceless. They don't have a face. They aren't a Mr. Smith. For anybody who's watched The Matrix. Yeah. Yeah.
So, in the last, we got about 6 more minutes.
Oh, somebody says they call them cardboard people. Faceless works too. Yeah, their face kind of looks, they're kind of like a vanilla color almost. They're not white. They're like a vanilla color. They're just strange. They have strange clothing. Really, they're just kind of creepy. I don't know. I have to do some reverse speech on them and see if anything comes up. Maybe I'll get some information. Yeah. That'd be interesting, wouldn't it? Anyway, yeah. So, let me talk a little bit about the book then, cause somebody's saying that they want one. It will be available, through a link on the journeyswithrebecca.com website, but I also have a new website and it's not live yet and it won't be live until the cover gets completely done, which by the way, I do have a picture of that I'll be sharing next week. If I'm here, there's a possibility I may be traveling. I'll let you know, JP, by Saturday or Friday if I'm going to be traveling and be back in time. But I have a website. It'll be rjjbooks.com. I have a couple other books that I'm actually working on. Now that this one is almost completed and I don't have to spend any time writing or rewriting, I am beginning work on my other ones. There will be a sequel to this one, so to speak. This one that I'm doing on night visions and experiences, etc. And it's all going to be about spirits, ghosts, and manifestations. Then I'm also working on one that's called Tips and Tools or Tools and Tips. And this is for people that are working with energy and vibrations and they want to they need some information about, first of all, is how to make their inner space and their outer space work for them, how to make it more conducive to their own personality. There's some protection stuff in there. There's stuff there's just 40 years worth of things that I've given to people that's helped them through the years, to help do inner work, to raise your vibrations, to raise your awareness, to raise the ability to be able to connect to your past lives. All that stuff will be in the tools and tips book. Then I am redoing my tarot book. It will no longer be a manual. It will actually be a complete book, which gives way more information than the manual that I used to teach from ever did. So those are the 3 that I have going on that will be in addition to my Night Visions book. Woohoo! I think I'll be a little busy.
You got plenty of work to do.
I do. And actually after sitting down and writing this book, I really figured out that it's not something that I dislike. You know, I always just tell people, I would rather talk. I don't like typing. And I sat down and once the book started, I couldn't stop typing for 2 days. That's all I did was type. I'd get up and take a 15-minute break, go back and work for 2 or 3 hours. I wouldn't even know I was at the computer for 2 or 3 hours. Then I'd get up and take a 15-minute break, and I couldn't stand it. I have to go back in and type some more. It was really quite an amazing adventure to write this book. It was kind of interesting to kind of watch myself do it, from a different perspective, as far as, and also being present doing it. It was really interesting. Thank you, Denise, by the way. I appreciate you. I hope that people will take a look at the website. I have mentorship programs that they're tailored for people, but they are to help you walk through these new and exciting times that we're in. They will help to get you more aware. The other thing that, I have different reading levels now. I've offered different readings for people. If you are interested in your star heritage or galactic heritage, that's one of my fortes. I also do past life regressions for anybody that's interested. You can get all that information on my website or by emailing me at journeyswithrebecca@yahoo.com. And there was something else that I wanted to say, and as soon as I got that out of my mouth, I couldn't remember what else it was that I wanted to say. How much time do we have left?
About 30 seconds or so.
Oh, we don't have much time. JP, I want to thank you again, sweetie, for your tenacity and for all the things that you do for everyone. I want to thank everyone who's listening. Thank you for the questions tonight. Thank you to my guest, David Oates. Lots of explorations. I wish each and every one of you the best day ever. And until we meet again, where your life's journey leads you, many blessings, everyone. Please take care, and I will hopefully see you next week. And I'll be starting some teaching shows coming up, and it'll be one a month at least. So I'm looking forward to that, and looking forward to spending more time here on Wolf Spirit as well as Freedom Slips or Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. Thank you all, everyone.
That's us. Thanks very much. Good night.
Good night, everyone.